Congratulations on your first wind energy auction. Good outcome. Good auction design, two-sided contracts for difference. Healthy price ceiling, fully subscribed, and now clear visibility in terms of the timing and the volumes for the next auctions. Just what industry want. This is a model for other countries. Well done. The European wind energy industry contributes 42 billion euros every year to EU GDP. Every time we install a European wind turbine in Europe, we generate on average 13 million euros of economic activity. It is not in Europe's collective interests to transfer those benefits outside of Europe. To install non-European wind turbines in Serbia or any other country in our continent is not in Europe's collective interests. To conclude, I quote President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen in her annual State of the Union speech to the European Parliament yesterday. She said, "The future of our clean tech industry has to be made in Europe."
It's impressive, this conference. I've had the privilege to be there last year, and I have the impression it has nearly doubled again. So very impressed what Serbia is and the association is doing, reaching here in Serbia. We need fair competition. Competition, and I say it as an introduction. Nordex, that is our life. We need fair competition. But we need fair competition. Unfair competition with completely subsidized prices is not manageable. It's not healthy. This is market distortion. We are fighting within Europe against market distortion. How can we accept market distortion from outside of Europe? So this is something we need absolutely to address, again, for the one most important reason that we need to secure our energy independence. I think this is definitely a good example for many other countries, how such an auction can be managed. Of course, now it's important that we keep the rhythm, that we stick to that 1 gigawatt expected until 2025 with the new auction in Q1, and that we also manage to find a strategic partner for the next gigawatt to be installed between 27 and 2030. I'm sure RES will support actively here also that this moves forward, but I think overall it's a very promising signal and confirms our belief in the Serbian market. We clearly support European manufacturing, so if we have the proper legal framework, regulatory framework, the clear visibility, we will be supportive. And when I think about Serbia, with a very long history in heavy and mechanical industry, I see that there is clearly potential also in Serbia to see what we could potentially produce. I see the high quality of the subcontractors we've been working with. It's impressive. So I clearly see that in the Balkans, in Eastern Europe, in Serbia, there is potential for us to have a close look and to develop an industry, to develop employments, and so clearly we're supportive. Yeah? I clearly can say out and loudly that we are extremely happy to be in Serbia. We've just been installing our first wind project, the project Hrvatska. We even installed the turbines ahead of time, and currently they're being commissioned. It's the first one of many more to come.
For us, Serbia is a very important market, both because of the projects, the existing projects and future projects which we plan to continue developing, but maybe more than that due to our strategic relationship and partnership with NES and other service providers here in Serbia. And I think we're in a race against the climate change, and for the time being we're losing. We're not running fast enough. I think if Serbia manages the grid properly, it will be able to increase significantly the renewable energy, not only for its own for internal needs, but also to become an exporter of renewable energy. And much more renewable energy is needed and much faster. And the two main constraints are indeed the permitting and the grid.
I share the concern of Goran on the balancing, because at the moment there is only visibility for a year or two maximum, and after that the risk remains in the hands of the developer without visibility. So I think this is certainly a topic for work for the coming rounds. Today, let's say only EPS is in a position to provide the necessary service with its production capacity, hydro, pumped hydro, and other base load, let's say adjustable base load production facilities. Leaving it to a market which does not exist as it is planned is quite a difficult position to be in. Today, as a company, we're generally looking at European manufacturers only, because we believe that's where our interest will best be served. But we are concerned. We are concerned that in some markets, the temptation to go for cheaper machines coming from abroad, as Anne-Catherine said, maybe with unfair competition, will squeeze us out. And so we are strongly in support of the necessary regulations in Europe to provide the framework for our manufacturers to thrive.
Competition is always healthy, and therefore we're looking forward to see more projects coming into the next auctions, because as the Ministry of Energy has committed to continue with the auctions, I think it is really critical that auctions in 2024 happen in a timely manner and onwards. So from the point of view of the manufacturer, I think this was a real step forward for Serbia. A move towards digitalization is a good move, but there's gonna be a lot of things that would have to be done in order for every one of us to fully understand it and to comply with that.
Dame i gospodo, dobrodošli nazad. Kao što znate, naziv današnje konferencije je Srbija posle aukcija. Zašto nam je to jedna od najaktuelnijih tema, saznaćemo u narednom panelu. Energija vetra, Srbija posle aukcija i Evropa posle energetske krize. Veliko nam je zadovoljstvo što je ponovo sa nama gospodin Giles Dickson, generalni direktor WindEurope. On će nas najpre uvesti u panel, a potom će zajedno sa svojim panelistima da nam da širi pogled na ovu temu. Gospodine Dickson, izvolite.
Hvala puno. Thank you very much indeed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations on your first wind energy auction. Good outcome. Good auction design, two-sided contracts for difference. Healthy price ceiling, fully subscribed, and now clear visibility in terms of the timing and the volumes for the next auctions, just what industry want. This is a model for other countries. Well done. After an auction, attention inevitably turns to procurement. The European wind industry fully understand the temptation to procure non-European wind turbines. We fully understand they're being offered at lower prices than European wind turbines. We fully understand that they're being offered with deferred payment terms, which companies headquartered in OECD countries are not allowed to offer. But what are the costs of procuring non-European wind turbines? Well, by turning one's back on equipment designed and manufactured in Europe, we increase our dependency on equipment from outside of Europe. That undermines our energy security. It rather contradicts the lessons we've learned from our previous dependency on Russian gas. Then there are the wider security interests. There are 300 electronic sensors on a modern wind turbine. As a European citizen, I want the data from those sensors, which are linked to other parts of our electricity system, to be stored and analyzed exclusively in Europe. Then there are the economic aspects. The European wind energy industry contributes 42 billion euros every year to EU GDP. Every time we install a European wind turbine in Europe, we generate on average 13 million euros of economic activity. It is not in Europe's collective interests to transfer those benefits outside of Europe. It would also weaken our political license to operate as we expand wind energy across Europe to cover 2% of Europe's land and 3% of Europe's sea space. Our citizens in Europe expect that they'll be getting something out of that economically. To sum up, to install non-European wind turbines in Serbia or any other country in our continent is not in Europe's collective interests. To conclude, I quote President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, in her annual State of the Union speech to the European Parliament yesterday. She said, "The future of our clean tech industry has to be made in Europe." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to introduce to you now a wonderful panel we have to talk about wind energy in Serbia. Please welcome up onto the stage, first of all, Anne-Catherine de Tourtier from Nordex, Nataša Pavlović from GE, Ilan Goren from Enlight, and Emmanuel Van Vyve from Elicio. Come up onto the stage. I'm going to give you 1 minute each to say who you are, something about your company, and what your company is doing in Serbia. Nataša.
Yes, thank you very much, Giles. Is that better?
Yes, that's working, yeah.
Thank you very much, Giles. Good afternoon, good day, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Nataša Pavlović, and I'm a head of sales in GE Vernova for onshore wind. GE Vernova is a global technology provider with 12 businesses across 4 segments: wind, onshore, offshore, NLM, power, gas power, steam power, nuclear power, hydropower, electrification, power conversion, grid solution, and digital. So with a global outreach and with a portfolio diversified, we're very well positioned to lead in the energy transition, and we're happy to serve our customers globally where they need us.
Thank you, Nataša. And your footprint in Serbia?
Yes. We are very present in Serbia as GE Vernova with all businesses, including wind, gas, and grid. In wind, namely, we have installed 2 wind parks over the past several years, 2 largest ones, Kovačica and Dolovo. And we have service center that serves 24/7 those 2 wind parks, and project management teams in the country. Our aim is really to support continuously Serbian market with developing and deploying, obviously, our technology here, and increasing the renewable footprint to help Serbia in their energy transition and energy independence and security. So we're looking forward to be here and to contribute to the overall aim.
Thank you, Nataša. Emmanuel.
Hello, thank you, Giles. I'm happy to be there. So Emmanuel Van Vyve, Director Business Development for Elicio. Elicio is a founder member of OIE Serbia. We were one of the pioneers here in the country with our wind farms in Malibunar and Alibunar. And we keep developing new projects here as part of our global strategy and dedication within the company to be a pure wind developer and operator. We are active not only in Serbia but also in Belgium, France, Spain, and in the UK, including offshore projects. It's a really big pleasure for me to be here after all the achievements of this year, and discuss how the future can even be brighter here in Serbia for the wind industry.
Thank you, Manuel. And Catherine, you're actually wearing 2 hats today.
I'm wearing 2 hats, indeed. Oh, I need to push it here. Does it work now? Yes, it works. Yes, I'm wearing 2 hats. My first hat is the Nordex hat. I'm the managing director for the region Mediterranean, and I'm honored that Serbia is part of that key region at Nordex, and that Serbia is one of our focus markets. So this is my first hat. My second hat is based in Paris. I'm also the president of the French Wind Energy Association, working closely with Giles, fighting to get wind energy increased in Europe. So this is my second hat. Do we introduce our companies already?
Please do.
Okay, so basically, I will start now with Nordex, and I will talk about Nordex. Nordex, as most of you know, for more than 38 years, Nordex has been developing, manufacturing, installing, servicing onshore wind turbines all over the world. It is today one of the largest onshore wind turbine manufacturers and the second largest in Europe. And it's with passion that our 9,600 employees are continuously improving our products. Our products basically range from 3 megawatt nominal output up to 6+ megawatt output. And our aim is really to constantly optimize the cost of energy. So over the past 10 years, basically, Nordex managed to reduce the cost of energy, and this is key, by 70%, which I think is a big success and a general trend of the wind industry. Basically, what we offer as well is long-term service contracts, which is also one of our key businesses. So we offer long-term contracts over 35 years of servicing, which is key also when you look at the real cost of energy of a project, not only looking at the price of the W2G, but the whole project lifespan of a wind turbine. We are basically, today, we have installed, and it's increasing every year because we are having a continuous growth. We have more than 46 gigawatt installed worldwide, over 30 countries, so we're covering basically 80% of the world wind energy market, excluding China. And we have, indeed, to support our very important business as well, servicing more than 350 service points all over the world. So, we are coming back to Serbia, and while we are here, I clearly can say out and loudly that we are extremely happy to be in Serbia. We've just been installing our first wind project, the project Krivacha. We even installed the turbines ahead of time, and currently they're being commissioned. It's the first one of many more to come. The next one in 2024 is in preparation. And we are very happy to be able to contribute to the success, and it's a very impressive success, I have to say. Serbia is proving us with this auction that just happened. I guess we will have the chance to discuss it. And it's a privilege also to support. Since 2019, the Nordex team has been supporting intensively the customers, the highly qualified developers and investors here in Serbia, because what is key as a turbine manufacturer is that we are at the earliest possible stage working together with our customers in order to optimize the project. So this is our aim. We've been doing that for the past years, and it's our aim to continue over the next years, and we are ramping up a very strong local team already, so we have already 11 people employed, Serbian people, local people employed here in Serbia. And I have to mention, I might mention it later, but we are highly impressed by the high quality, the high competence of the people we are hiring and the candidates we have. So, and also I might just mention it because I'm highly impressed, I'm talking too much, I guess, but it's impressive, this conference. I've had the privilege to be there last year, and I have the impression it has nearly doubled again. So very impressed what Serbia is and the association is doing, reaching here in Serbia.
Hear to that. And Catherine, congratulations to Res Serbia. Ilan, tell us about Enlight.
Good morning. I'm from Enlight, a renewable energy company. We operate in 9 countries in Europe, in the United States, and in Israel. We have wind farms, some of the largest wind farms in Europe we own, in the solar project, agro-solar project, and some huge storage projects in the United States, in Israel, and others which are now being developed in Europe. We're traded on the NASDAQ and the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange. Regarding our activity in Serbia, we first entered the market in 2015. We're joining NES and the development of the Kovačica wind farm, which was later on financed and constructed and is operating since 2019. Then we started developing, again together with NES, our second project, Pupin project, which we just now started construction after winning the auction. And we're developing a third project in that same area of 200 megawatt wind farm. Kovačica and Pupin are 2 adjacent projects which share substation and the same interconnection. Talking about grid constraints, I think it's one of the solutions of optimizing and maximizing each point of connection. For us, Serbia is a very important market, both because of the projects, the existing projects and future projects which we plan to continue developing, but maybe more than that due to our strategic relationship and partnership with NES and other service providers here in Serbia.
Thank you very much indeed, Ilan. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So we have 2 wind turbine manufacturers in red and 2 wind farm developers in grey. Now,
and the red tie.
Panel, let's discuss the auction. What do we think? Ilan, you were one of the winners. What did you think of the auction?
We are very satisfied. I think it all starts with the planning. And we think that the way the auction was built is a very balanced way, in a very balanced manner, supporting both the needs of the developers and the Serbian electricity market. There are a few fundamentals which were laid in the auctions and made it a success. First of all, high bonds. We see different auctions and different processes where the barriers of entry are very low, and therefore projects which are not real are being developed but do not reach financial close and do not start construction. I think here all the winners are real projects which will be constructed very soon. We hope to start erecting the first turbines by mid next year and to reach later after the commercial operation. A second thing which was well designed is the ability to sell 30% on merchant. First of all, it increased the volume of projects. It enabled 400 megawatts quota to support projects of about approximately 550 megawatts. So more projects, great benefit both to the developers and to the market. Secondly, I think it enables us to reduce our offering for the CFD, because we see that the tranche, the 30% which will be sold on merchant, will receive higher revenues based on the current spot market, which is high, and our forecast for the prices of corporate PPA in the longer future. All over Europe, we sign corporate PPAs, mostly with the large high-tech companies and international corporates who are very committed to their ESG goals, where their owners, their shareholders, their employees, their managers, their customers push them to be net zero. So we believe that also in Serbia, in a few years' time, there will be a liquid and deep market for private PPAs, and therefore this combination of 70% and 30% was very good for both the developers and the market. I think it's even worth testing it in the next round, maybe even to reduce the threshold. Maybe it will enable more projects to be built. The balancing is still something that worries us. It wasn't really finalized in the current scheme. We feel enough certain regarding the Serbian market, so we did start construction, as mentioned before, not waiting for all the pieces to be in place, but we think it's very important to create high clarity and specific regulation that enables us to understand the balancing and manage it in a proper manner.
Thank you for that, Ilan. Emmanuel, what did Elicio think of the auction?
So, as you have seen, Elicio did not participate to the auction, but we were a very curious follower of what's happening, and were, through the association, obviously a contributor to all the exchanges that led up to the launching of the auction. And I think the results are very positive. One of the, I think, very much important element for this success was that the price ceiling was appropriate to the circumstances we are in. We all know that the industry today is facing, let's say, a double squeeze. On the one hand, the cost of the technology has increased due to a raw material increase, the cost of labor increases, the transport costs, etc. And on the other hand, the rise of the interest rates on the market, so making, for the moment, the cost of developing projects, implementing projects higher. And it was a good, conscious decision by the government to allow a ceiling that provides enough space for competition, but also space for good projects to thrive. I think the digital aspect of the auction is also a great success that we can mention. The rapidity at which this could happen between the launching, the submission and the results shows that this can be efficiently implemented. Obviously also a two-sided market premium provides the necessary comfort for developers that it will work on the long term. I share the concern of Goran on the balancing, because at the moment there is only visibility for a year or two maximum, and after that the risk remains in the hands of the developer without visibility. So I think this is certainly a topic for work for the coming rounds. Today, let's say, only EPS is in a position to provide the necessary service with its production capacity, hydro, pumped hydro, and other base load, let's say, adjustable base load production facilities. Leaving it to a market which does not exist as it is planned is quite a difficult position to be in. Finally, I think also, and as a point mentioned by Goren, it was very good to put a threshold high enough in terms of credibility of those projects. It meant that we could not participate because we couldn't achieve that threshold with our projects at this stage. But it's a good point because it means that these projects now that have won will be implemented quickly. And I think that will bring to another topic later in the panel is how the permitting process works and how it can maybe be improved to allow a quicker turnaround in the permitting cycle. Also that ties in with the evolution of the technology and allows developers to always think in implementing the best available technology on the market.
Thank you. Nataša and Catherine, as manufacturers, any comments on the auction or the auction design?
I would like to say, from the turbine manufacturer points of view, the long-awaited auction. We were all very happy to see it coming into realization. Obviously, the details of the design I'm unable to comment, but the huge competition is a real proof and evidence of how mature the industry is, in wind at least. So competition is always healthy, and therefore we're looking forward to see more projects coming into the next auctions, because as the Ministry of Energy has committed to continue with the auctions, I think it is really critical that auctions in 2024 happen in a timely manner and onwards. So from the point of view of the manufacturer, I think this was a real step forward for Serbia.
Thank you. And Catherine?
I can only agree to what Nataša said. For us, definitely confirms our strong belief in the Serbian market that we share with our colleague GE here. Clearly, I think the signal is very positive to have high-valued, high-professional investment funds, developers, local, international, participating in this auction. I think it also showed that the government is basically capable to manage such a complex auction in a transparent and timely manner. So I think this is definitely a good example for many other countries how such an auction can be managed. Of course, now it's important that we keep the rhythm, that we stick to that 1 gigawatt expected until 2025 with the new auction in Q1, and that we also manage to find a strategic partner for the next gigawatt to be installed between 27 and 2030. I'm sure RES will support actively here also that this moves forward, but I think overall it's a very promising signal and confirms our belief in the Serbian market.
Thank you. Ilan, you would like to reduce the threshold. Can you just be clear which threshold and what level you'd like it to be reduced to?
Currently, 70%, at least 70% needs to be part of the CFD regime, and up to 30% go merchant. I think since all the winners or the participants went very close to the threshold, between 70 to 72%, I think it's worth reducing it to about 60% and enabling the market to see if it will still remain competitive. And by that, the quota in the auction will enable more projects to come in.
Thank you. Emmanuel, do you agree?
I agree. That provides more flexibility, and we also believe that not only projects supported by market premium, but also commercial projects could at one point in time be developed in Serbia, and lowering the threshold would probably allow more projects to come forward.
Thank you. Now the balancing issue. Ilan, Emmanuel, you've both described the problem. What's the solution? Ilan first.
One solution is to fix the fixed price for balancing per megawatt hour. The second solution is to create a clear formula that will enable us to fully understand the cost and to prepare ourselves accordingly. There are different measures that could be taken, starting from adding batteries on site and commercial arrangements with off-takers to resolve the balancing, but it's very important both for the investors and for the financing entities supporting us to have more clarity in order to know for the long term that it's a deep market and the prices could be well managed. We see in different markets where the market is deep enough and there are balancing groups that the cost of balancing is a reasonable part of the OPEX of a project. In other countries where we operate and it's less structured, it's a huge cost and it's a real barrier for new projects to start construction.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
It's a difficult question, especially in a country like Serbia, where the market is not fully liberalized, and therefore there's at the moment no real actors that can take that risk easily. So I think I would share the view that Ilan said, that a fixed fee offered on the long term by the state company is a solution. We see also that, and we know it's a concern, they've shared that earlier in the morning when introducing this conference. I think as well that the regulation today on grid connection is trying to accommodate the issue of incorporating more intermittent production from renewable by implementing some barriers during the grid connection study process and a threshold by which you could be forced to install eventually batteries or other production means to help with balancing. But that is, at this moment, this regulation is not clear enough for investors to take decision. And as we discussed earlier as well, there is no, as a good question raised by my colleague from CWP, there is no capacity remuneration or other systems that would allow the incorporation of batteries to be financed on a project basis. So I think it's a global industry discussion that I think today is starting and that we need to really take seriously over the coming months so that on the longer term new projects can be developed in a healthy way.
Thank you. And Katerina, Natasha, modern wind turbines offer more and more balancing services.
Yes.
Voltage control, frequency control. Do you want to say something about that?
We are definitely working on that end as well and following that trend. Also, notably, if we look globally at the flexibility, Nordex particularly, as you know, some of you know, is considerably investing in R&D in hydrogen electrolyzers, typically in storage, and also we are developing and improving, of course, our frequency levels, our flexibility as well, to be able to cope the best possible way with the demand.
Okay, thank you, Natasha.
Yes, the same over here. I mean, the battery storage and as well as hybrids business and the grid solutions at the GE Vernova also offer a wide range of possibilities and options to balancing, and it's very important to keep obviously the capacity going. So that's going to be a hot subject moving forward. So we're happy to help our customers find solutions for their wind parks and other fleet.
Thank you. So, panel, before we move on to permitting, to conclude on auctions, it seems there are only two things that you want to see improved between you: the threshold for merchant projects and a solution to the balancing issues. Is that it? Only those two issues? Now's your chance to mention any more before we move on.
I think for this forum and this stage, it's sufficient.
Agreed.
Okay, the panel seems to be in agreement. Just those two issues for the next auctions to work on. Right, let's talk about the permitting. Ilan, You've won. You're about to start building. You've given us a very ambitious timeline. Have you got all your permits? If not, how are you getting on?
Again, I think we're getting on well, mainly thanks to our very professional partners in NES. But I think permitting is a challenge, but as discussed in other sessions, grid is even the bigger challenge. We saw at the beginning of the conference a very nice video showing, talking about the climate. And I think we're in a race against the climate change, and for the time being we're losing. We're not running fast enough. Our goals are high, but are not high enough. The bottlenecks are still there and preventing us to implement renewable energy in the pace that is needed for our survival. If we just look at the last month, or July, for instance, was the warmest month ever measured at Earth. It was 17.2 degrees average. We all feel it personally, and we saw some very unique weather phenomena, floods in Libya just this week, very deadly ones, and in Greece, huge fires from Greece to California. Weather is a big thing, and we're not operating fast enough. I think it's that this, if once it seemed as a problem for next generation, now it's clear that we are the generation, and now it's the time to handle it. And much more renewable energy is needed, and much faster. And the two main constraints are indeed the permitting and the grid. Regarding permitting, I think it's complicated, but in my personal opinion, it should remain complicated, because when you build a 100 megawatt wind farm, it has a significant impact on the environment and the social impact. So I think everything needs to be tested very carefully before such a farm is being built. But on the other hand, I think it should be very fast. The process should not be easier, but it should be faster. Now we see bottlenecks in permitting, when sometimes a single authority can waste or can delay a construction of very large projects for months, and sometimes even for years. So we now saw, just a few years ago, Brussels promoting legislation where if a certain entity does not provide its feedback within 30 or 60 days, it's as if it accepted the permit, the requirements. So this is one bottleneck that needs to be removed. I think it's also important to divide between projects in certain areas or certain characteristics, such as hybridized project, which should have a faster path for permitting, while others should be tested more slowly. Can I talk about grid now, or do you want later on?
Let's come back to grids, if we may, Ilan. So you are saying on permitting, we need to enshrine the principle of positive silence. If a public authority hasn't replied by its deadline, it's assumed to be in agreement.
Exactly.
Okay. Emmanuel, do you agree?
I agree, but I think also there is, in a country like Serbia, but any other country where the pace of development is high, it's also a question of resource and quality resource at the side of the authority to manage the evaluation of those permit applications. So it's not always a question of a political will, but it's also a question of resource. That's something we experience right now. Sometimes you submit your application, but it's too slow. The reaction is too slow because they just lack the resources. They are overwhelmed. And so that's for me an issue generally in the industry, is that we train and we bring enough quality, competent resource to handle it from the public authority side as well as from the developer and let's say the construction side. So that's one point. The other point is the flexibility in the system. That, let's say in Serbia, everything starts with what's the so-called master planning. It's a long process, and it's too specific in my view. It's too much project specific technology. It goes too far in the details too early. In a permitting process, you should go from the big picture to the details in a very progressive manner, and it's not a good idea that your turbine position should be fixed so early in the process. You should have that flexibility later on. Also for integrating additional features in your projects later on. Imagine you have developed a wind farm project and then the regulation evolves. You are incentivized to put additional battery storage, but it was not planned in the beginning, and that you're forced to restart from the beginning. Not a good idea. So you need to have in the system enough flexibility so that your project can adjust to the market evolution, whatever regulation or technology as well.
Thank you. Yes, there is no requirement in European law anywhere that you have to stick with the technology spec for the turbines that was in the original permit application. On the contrary, the EU wants countries to be more flexible than that.
And maybe that's also something where the Serbian industry can learn, because today, obviously, to get a construction permit, you need to go very much in details. And if you change turbine, you will have some steps to retake, which is not efficient, in my view.
Now, the European Union's new Renewable Energy Directive requires all member states to fully digitalize their permitting processes. Serbia, as a candidate country, is expected to mirror that. How's it looking, the digitalization of permitting here? Ilan?
Milos, can you help me on that? The digitalizing of the permitting process.
May I?
Please, Natasha, yes.
I think overall, from the turbine manufacturer point of view, a fact is that the wind industry and renewable industry is a young industry compared to other conventional powers. So we're all in this industry learning, and there is a pace at which we're learning. Obviously, each country has its own regulation and laws and so on. So I think a move towards digitalization is a good move, but there's going to be a lot of things that would have to be done in order for every one of us to fully understand it and to comply with that. Whether that's going to bring like a faster and more clear permitting, we don't know, remains to be seen, but we as an industry need to all chip in order to make it better.
Emmanuel, do you wish to comment? I understand the construction permit is a digital process now. That's progress, better than in some member states of the EU, indeed.
Yeah, I think Serbia is doing relatively well compared to some member states, and I can speak for one I'm living in, which is not always the best in class for that. So yes, it can be improved for sure, but it's normal that it's going step by step.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on permitting issues before we move on to something else? And Katarina, you wish to comment?
Just to say, I mean, I agree with Ilan about the fact that we should definitely consider the key challenges of development, that we need to be a good example and take into account the fact that we have an impact on the landscape and that we need to do thoroughly the studies. But I think we nevertheless, so this is for sure, but I think the idea that has been worked on the European level to have zones that are already, defined, predefined, where we don't necessarily need to do an environmental permit. Again, I think these simplification processes are nevertheless absolutely essential to keep the pace and to reach our targets. Because to be clear, also if we look at Fit for 55, if we do not speed up, we will not reach the target. as of today. Certainly there are some countries like Germany, even the UK on the onshore business that are developing, but typically if I take my French hat, we are behind target, and we are not a good example of efficient wind energy deployment. We have never had such a strong refusal rate as in France for the moment. So we definitely need to have a big push, and there's a big difference between something what has been decided on the EU level and what is then in reality implemented on the national level. But we'll get there.
By contrast, Anne-Catherine, your company headquartered in Germany, Nataša, GE has turbine factories in Germany. Germany has almost doubled its permitting rate of new onshore wind turbines thanks to new rules and easings they've brought in.
But Germany is still behind the target, their own target, which of course is very ambitious compared to all other countries or most of the other countries, but they're still behind target. But I agree, Giles, as I mentioned earlier, there's definitely a very positive development in Germany, but it has now to be continued.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk about the supply chain. Ursula von der Leyen, in her State of the Union speech yesterday, announced a new wind power package. One of the elements of that, she said, should be we need stable supply chains in Europe. Anne-Catherine, how do we secure that? How are things looking for you in Nordex today?
I mean, our position is very clear. First, maybe as a general, competition is good. We're in favor of competition. But we clearly today see there's an urgency, and we support that idea. Giles mentioned it earlier, that we need, as European, whether it's EU and all European countries, including Serbia, there's an absolute urgency for us to protect ourselves and for national security reasons to have an energy independence. I think this is the big lessons we've had over the past close to 2 years, more than 1.5 years with the Ukrainian war, the need that we assure our energy independence. So this is why energy is part of the de-risking strategy of the European Union. It has to be. De-risking and diversifying. And this should be our all aim for the next years, that we do work on this national security. De-risking and diversifying is clearly something where wind has a good response to, is able to fulfill. But de-risking strategy, de-risking energy, means also de-risking the technology. We need to, that the technology needs to be independent as well. And this is key, and this is where us, OEM, clearly have a position that we need to secure our European manufacturers, our European production facilities, as you mentioned, in Spain, in Germany, regarding Nordex, for example. So this is absolutely key, and this has to be our aim. So, but de-risking energy means also having an energy resilience policy that comes with a certain cost. And maybe when developing this, look at what our key challenges as OEMs today, as European OEMs today. Basically, what we are facing is the cost of manufacturing in Europe. That is increased and leads us today, as wind energy is still very much based and supported from an economic point of view in many countries, we are forced as turbine manufacturer to even expand our manufacturing and supply out of Europe. And this goes exactly against the trend what has been determined within Europe, that we need to de-risk, to have energy as part of our de-risking strategy. So the current trend is going against of what is, we believe, absolutely urgently needed. Second point is supply chain dependency. Again, here, it goes against what the aim of the European Union is. We are more and more dependent on other countries outside of Europe, partially even on single sourcing, whether it's on the electronic side, you mentioned it, Nigel, whether it's on the forging side, and this is again against what has been decided on the European level and what we decided as being one of our key aspects. Then we just mentioned it, low market dynamics. The European permitting trend goes downwards. We have some good examples, I'm not going to it again, but we have a lot of bad examples. So we need to have clearly a much better visibility on the project. And what is a project? A project needs a permit, and a permit needs to be delivered in a duly, timely manner with a clear visibility to enable us to have a steady production, to have a clear visibility on our outlook. Then the fourth point is clearly we need fair competition. Competition, and I say it as an introduction, Nordex, that is our life. We need fair competition. But we need fair competition. Unfair competition, which completely subsidized prices, is not manageable. It's not healthy. This is market distortion. We are fighting within Europe against market distortion. How can we accept market distortion from outside of Europe? So this is something we need absolutely to address, again, for the one most important reason that we need to secure our energy independence. Beyond all the economic potentials, reindustrialization, employment, all the other positive effects of having a European industry. But the key element today that I'm mentioning is, of course, the national security, is the energy independence. And the fifth point is, of course, the current financial situation, financial costs, the inflation, the interest rates, which have a huge impact. So having said all this, we definitely, as European countries, as the European Union, and all European countries, especially if Serbia, which we truly hope for, will integrate the European electrical system, which is absolutely key, we all in this round here have a role to play, our countries have a role to play, to create a good framework that enables European manufacturing. And it comes again as a certain economic cost, because as Nigel rightfully said, of course we understand for economic reasons certain decisions are being taken. But the consequences of that are too important. And that's why we need to put framework regulations enabling us to counteract that risk. So again, technology need to be part of the de-risking strategy of Europe, so the European manufacturers. Having said this, of course, we also need on the financing side, and I guess this will be part of the panel this afternoon, also enable, from a manufacturing point of view, also to have a financial framework that enables us with adapted interest rates, with adapted loans, public loans, with good interest rates, with the backing of the national governments to have commercial terms that are acceptable for us manufacturers and our entire supply chain to manufacture in Europe. And this is an urgent need that we need to secure the independency of energy in our countries.
Thank you, Anne-Catherine. Nataša, GE is one of Europe's 5 wind turbine manufacturers. You make both offshore and onshore turbines here in Europe. Of course, you're a transatlantic turbine manufacturer as well. How are things looking for you? Any comments on what Anne-Catherine has said?
Yes, thank you, Giles. I want to make 2 points. The first one related to the last 3 to 5 years. If you look back 3 to 5 years, we, with the market PPAs declining, we as turbine manufacturers have been rallying on a race to launch quickly big machines, big turbines. And we became overly complex. That's the fact. And we have put so much pressure onto the supply chains that from that angle, we caused instability. But as things are moving forward, I think we're coming to an end of that chapter. And we're looking to see more stability into the supply chain. As a global technology provider, we have production facilities all over the world. And I want to emphasize that here in Europe, we have production facilities in Germany, in Spain, in Poland, all over the place. And we're looking to serve our customers and their project needs to the best of our ability with that supply chain.
You have factories in France, you've got to say that, and Catherine's here.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Correct, we do. We do.
It's very
Great.
good.
Emmanuel, you're a developer. You develop wind farms all over Europe in lots of different countries. You've always got a choice what sort of turbines you buy. How do you see things?
So far, Elicio has always used European manufacturers for different reasons. The quality of the delivery, the quality of the service for long-term maintenance services. It's very important when you develop an asset like a wind farm that you get quality service for the long term. That's the basics of the model. And as a citizen, a European citizen, I'm really also willing to see that this economic development in renewable energy benefit us as a citizen going forward. So yes, today, as a company, we're generally looking at European manufacturers only, because we believe that's where our interest will best be served, but we are concerned. We are concerned that in some markets, the temptation to go for cheaper machines coming from abroad, as Anne-Catherine said, maybe with unfair competition, will squeeze us out. And so we are strongly in support of the necessary regulations in Europe to provide the framework for our manufacturers to thrive, to deliver quality product, quality service, and so that they also earn their good side of the cake, of the economical benefits alongside the developers and the local citizen in all the countries.
Thank you for that. Nataša, it's not just about building a new turbine and delivering it. There's also the whole operation and maintenance and service side of things as well. Now, you have a service center here in Serbia. I mean, tell us about it and the importance of keeping up the 24/7 operation of the machines you've installed.
First of all, we provide technology that the key principle of our approach is basically to provide technology that with quality. And in order to maintain the right level of quality and everything up to the standard, you need to service the machines. So here, for the 2 wind parks that we have, 95 machines currently spinning in the country, we have a dedicated service center that runs 24/7. So it means it has to keep the capacity up and running. It has to run 24/7, day by day, month after month, year by year. So that's our commitment to our customers, to the country, and we do that all over the world, and it's our DNA.
Thank you for that. One final question on, yes, please, Ilan.
Yeah, I would also want to talk about availability and quality. For us as owners of project, the LCOE is probably the most important parameter, but the way to get to the lowest LCOE is not just buying the cheapest turbine, but a turbine that provides high availability. We have over 600 megawatts of turbines acquired from GE, over 400 from Nordex, and quality is so important for us when selecting a turbine. If I look back when we started installing our first turbines about 10 years ago, they were 90 meters diameter. Now our turbines being between 150 and 170 meters diameters, almost four times more swept area. The mechanical load on the turbines are huge. The electronic components are so much more sophisticated. The impact on the grid of these huge wind farms is tremendous. So selecting a turbine that was both designed in a proper way, went through the right QA processes, but maybe even more important, when there are problems, and there are always problems during commissioning and during operation, knowing that you have a partner who will take care of the things, who will solve the issue, who will be committed as the manufacturer to solve the issues as soon as possible and to reach the contractual availability. So for us, when selecting a turbine, this is a key parameter.
Thank you for that. Next week we have a WindEurope board meeting, and the Slovak State Investment Agency are coming to give us a presentation on why the members of WindEurope should invest in the wind supply chain in Slovakia. They've done a great job attracting automotive investments, of course. They want to replicate that for wind. Neighboring country of yours, of course. What would be your perspective, Anne-Catherine and Nataša, about building out a wind energy supply chain in Central and Eastern Europe, in Southeast Europe? Most of the factories today are in Western Europe, of course. Anne-Catherine.
Again, we clearly support European manufacturing. So if we have the proper legal framework, regulatory framework, the clear visibility, we will be supportive. And when I think about Serbia, with a very long history in heavy and mechanical industry, I see that there is clearly potential also in Serbia to see what we could potentially produce. I see the high quality of the subcontractors we've been working with. It's impressive. So I clearly see that in the Balkans, in Eastern Europe, in Serbia, there is potential for us to have a close look and to develop an industry, to develop employments, and so clearly we're supportive.
Thank you. Yes. Nataša.
I would definitely agree that we as a turbine technology provider always evaluate possibilities and options of localizing or making sure that we deliver the most cost-effective machines. Of course, everything has its own context. You cannot localize everywhere, but certainly there are potential opportunities that we're definitely going to look at.
Thank you. Right, final point, grids. Ilan, I promised you we'd come back to it. What needs to happen in Serbia?
Thank you for coming back. Grid is a problem in Serbia, but it's a problem everywhere. This is the biggest constraint from renewable energy becoming the largest source of energy much faster than envisaged. In Serbia, we see, unlike the auctions which we described before, where there was a threshold thanks to the bonds, where only real projects could have applied for applying for grid connection. There are almost no conditions. You just need to apply, and if there's grid available, you can get it. And therefore, there's no separation between real projects and projects that will not mature. And I think in order to expedite the development, it's very crucial to focus on real projects that have the right permitting and the right developers that can really make them happen. I think if Serbia manages the grid properly, it will be able to increase significantly the renewable energy, not only for its own for internal needs, but also to become an exporter of renewable energy. Grid is the way to make it happen. I think there are two main layers. One of them is to invest a lot in the existing infrastructure, but this will be a very long and lengthy process, since the grid was not built for 100% renewable energy, vice versa. So it will be a long process. But I think the more immediate action is to support hybridization. It was raised during previous sessions. Many of our projects in the United States, Spain, Israel are hybridized, either solar plus storage, wind plus storage, or the combination of the three. And I think that in Serbia, there's a real need and opportunity to hybridize projects. In Spain, for instance, we have a 330 megawatt wind farm, which we are now about to start installing between the turbines, 250 megawatts of solar and 200 megawatts of storage. This project, which currently has a capacity factor of 30-something%, will reach a capacity factor of almost 55%, closer and closer to baseload project. And this without adding any substation, any grid infrastructure, all based on the existing interconnection. So I think this is the most immediate way to increase significantly the usage of the existing grid and to face the limitation. In Serbia, a lot of the lands are agricultural lands, and we believe that agro-PV is a solution to combine all worlds together, to have the farmers keep working in his field, to have solar project, to have a wind farm, and to have batteries.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to comment on grids? If not, I would suggest, ladies and gentlemen, that we thank our excellent panelists.